Hey guys, it's Boogie, and I promised you a spoiler review of The Rise of Skywalker, and I'm going to do that here. I'm not going to put any production value into this video, so feel free to just alt-tab out, listen to this video, play some video games while you listen to this video. I hope you do listen. I'm going to talk a lot about my entire history of Star Wars before I talk about this movie, and I'm just going to talk for however long it goes. And I'm going to be honest with you, with zero production value in this video, I'm going to be, it might still be better produced than some of the Star Wars third trilogy film scenes. So, okay, let's start at the very beginning when it came to 4, 5, and 6, because I saw The Return of the Jedi was the first movie I saw in the series. It came out when I was like 9 years old. I didn't even know what I was buying a ticket for. My mom just dropped me off at a place and told me to go see a movie, and that's the movie I went and saw. I didn't really understand what was going on, but I liked it. I liked the graphics. I liked the space fights. I didn't like the Ewoks very much, even at that age, but I pretty much liked what I saw was going on. That movie got ruined for me, though, when I got to high school because everyone called me Jabba the Hutt, and I hated it. And it created a very negative reinforcement of that film. But eventually I saw Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back, and really, The Empire Strikes Back is an incredible movie. And let's just be entirely honest when it comes to those three movies. It is lightning in a bottle. There will never be anything like those movies ever again. An incredible phenomenon, an incredible idea. And you can put it all on George Lucas if you want to, but here's the thing. George Lucas just happened to know a million horribly talented, insanely talented people who came in and made this movie for him. Whether it's John Williams at the score or the editor who saved it in the last minute. That story's kind of famous. They're great. They're great films. And here's the thing. When you watch them in order, I didn't get to watch them in order, but when you watch them in order and you're learning all of this stuff, those plot twists are part of the joy. But what I think makes the original trilogy so good is not the details. In a good story, your mind gets to fill out the details yourself, right? It's the laser fights, it's the space fights, it's the plot twists, it's the good versus evil. That's the heart of what Star Wars is. And when you are left to figure out the details of yourself, what is a lightsaber? How are they made? What is happening? What is Darth Vader? Why is he like that? What happened to him? It becomes something that you emotionally connect to. So then we go back to the prequels, and when I walked out of Phantom Menace, I originally enjoyed the film. I thought, that wasn't bad, was it? But the more I sat on that film, and the more I discussed it with other people, the more I began to realize that it's not a good film. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't hold up. So what's frustrating about the prequels to me is that the prequels is mired in the details. There's so many details. And with the Senate and all the politics and all of the trade federations and all that stuff. So those movies are not as good as the original trilogy to me. Now, after 20 years, has it been 20 years since those movies came out? Good God. After 20 years, I've gone back and watched those movies many, many times. And there are parts of those films that I like. The acting is not that great. The CGI is weird in some particular cases. The whole love story between Anakin and Padme is just bizarre because of how young he is. But that's George Lucas. George Lucas likes that stuff. So I went into the Disney films with relatively low expectations. You can see some of the old videos I made here on the channel going into it thinking that it was not going to work out very well. So let's talk about 7 and 8 before I move on to 9. Because 7, I walked out of thinking, this is a good starting point. This is not as good as the original trilogy. It's probably better than the prequels. I still think it's better than the prequels. No offense to any prequel lovers out there. And I was really just kind of hopeful. Even though it rehashed a lot of stuff, it had some pretty good Star Wars-y moments. And it wasn't focused on the detail as much as it was the emotion and the plot points and the cool laser swords and the fighting. And a lot of the stuff was left to your imagination. And I think that's one of the reasons that movie resonated with me, because I really wanted to fill in all of the blanks. We all did. That was the entire point of the movie. Come along to number 8, which is one of the most divisive Star Wars films of all time, surprisingly more divisive than The Phantom Menace. You have some people who love that movie and some who hate it. Some of us, I think I'm now in the camp of someone who dislikes it quite a bit. And the reason being is because Rian Johnson obviously wanted to subvert expectations, which is fine. But the way he subverted expectations was not fine. He pretty much filled in all of the blanks, but in ways that a lot of characters wouldn't like. Now, here's some stuff that I did like about number 8. I wasn't really particularly a fan of Rose Tico or what she did at the end of the film. I really didn't like the whole Canto gambling casino scene. I didn't like that the theme of that movie is failure and that everything fails and nothing good happens. I don't like any of that stuff. The stuff that I liked in 8, I was a big Reylo fan. I wanted to see Kylo Ren and Rey basically get together, push all of the wills or whatever you call, push the Force away and say, we're going to do it the way we want to do it. Go start training, create a one giant Jedi Academy with the good guys and the bad guys, the gray Jedis, trying to train them to be fully balanced individuals, something brand new, something that has never happened in the Star Wars now canon universe, and just be really cool. I should go ahead and say I'm not an expert when it comes to the extended universe. I haven't watched a lot of the cartoons. I've seen The Mandalorian, I've seen the movies. That's pretty much the end of my Star Wars love. I like the main stuff. The side stuff, not a huge fan of that stuff. So if I say something stupid that doesn't make sense when it comes to the extended universe, please forgive me, because I am very ignorant of that stuff. If you turn off the video because of that, that's okay. I fully understand, but I think it's important that we point that stuff out. The other thing, I originally did not like what they did with Luke Skywalker. I hated the fact that as Mark Hamill is prone to say, the most optimistic character in the entire series decided to give up. I really did not like that. I don't think very many people did. And I wanted to see Luke at full force. I wanted to see Luke fully trained, fully impassioned, ready to fight, ready to destroy. I wanted to see black cloaked Luke just going batshit nuts. And we don't get that. We absolutely don't get that. It's the opposite of that. That's where I think Rian Johnson really, really, truly messed up. The killing of Snoke in number 8, I was absolutely fine with. That's what a Sith apprentice is supposed to do. He's supposed to eventually turn on his master and eventually take the power and take the throne and take the thing and do the thing. I liked that. I actually did. I wanted to know who Snoke was. I wanted an answer for that. But if I never got one, that's okay. Snoke was just the guy who trained Kylo, tested Kylo, and eventually gave up his seat to Kylo, because that's how it's supposed to work, is in my understanding of the Star Wars universe. Again, I might be a little bit ignorant here. So fast forward into 9, I knew, because of how poorly received 8 was going to be, Abrams was going to do a lot of trying to clean that stuff up. I also want to say, I really liked the seed of Rey being a nobody. I like the idea that maybe, like Anakin, she was immaculately conceived. I liked the idea that maybe the Force just picked someone with a high midichlorian count or whatever and said, since there's a truly evil side out there right now, we have to pick a person and make them a Mary Sue, make them absurdly powerful to bring balance to the Force. I love the idea of balance to the Force. That's one of my favorite concepts. So if there's a truly, truly evil person out there, then we need to create a truly, truly good person to fight that person. Or at least if one side is more powerful than the other, we've got to balance it out. If the Jedi get too strong, this is where Luke had a bit of an idea. When the Jedi get too strong, then the Sith have to give birth to some absurdly powerful Sith Lord, and vice versa, right? And it's a struggle that will go on forever and ever, and it's because it's the Force. It's not just one guy. You know where I'm headed now, and you're going to understand where I'm upset. So in theory, I don't have a problem with bringing back Emperor Palpatine. I really don't. The guy was pretty much a necromancer. The guy could pretty much do a cheat death. The guy had been experimenting with cloning. We saw that in the Clone Wars. So quite clearly, there's a possibility that he could come back in some way. And even the way that he did come back, I don't particularly have a problem with. Here's what I do have a problem with. I don't like that the Emperor made Snoke. And I don't like that Snoke is just a puppet, and that the Emperor says, I'm every voice you've ever heard, and I've manipulated you from the beginning, and he's manipulating Rey, and I liked the idea of a dormant Emperor who's just trying to stay alive until things finally work out the way he wants them to work out. I get that he would be manipulating things, but not to that incredible degree. And if he is manipulating him to such an incredible degree, then all of the sacrifices we saw Rey or Kylo make are pointless. The killing of Han Solo was one of the best parts of number 7 to me. I know a lot of people dislike that, but I loved it. I wanted that to have weight. I wanted that to have meaning. Now it doesn't, because he was manipulated into doing the thing, and it wasn't a character decision. It was the Emperor telling him to do things the way the Emperor tells him to do things because he's a manipulative piece of... And I've seen videos now where people try to explain the Emperor's plan to me, and it still doesn't fully make sense. So I think my biggest complaint when it comes to number 9, which again, I did enjoy the film as a popcorn film. It is a fine popcorn film. It is not as good as the original trilogy. Nothing ever will be as good as 4, 5, and 6. But I did just enjoy it because, hey, there's light swords and there's laser swords and there's fights and there are people hacking each other apart and characters that I care about are doing stuff and characters that I care about are dying. I like, all of that's fun. All of that's fun. It's just a fun set through. It's a great movie to put on in the background. It's not a great movie to get obsessed about. It's not a great movie to be crazy about. It's not a good movie to fan theorize about or to try to fill in the blanks in your mind. But it's a good thing to put on a screen and watch occasionally. So that's how I feel about this film. But you can't do with this what you did with 4, 5, and 6. You can't fill in the blanks. You can't obsess with it. You can't do those things. The biggest issue I have with this movie is there's just too much happening in such a short period of time. Rich Evans from Red Letter Media, if you haven't seen the review, I have watched it. Some of the stuff I'm saying here is probably directly lifted from them. But Rich Evans says, if you grow up watching Vine videos, you are probably didn't see a problem with the ninth film because it's like a Vine compilation. Little 5-second, 4-second clips. But one of the biggest issues is the movie tries to carry some weight. The death of Chewbacca, perfect example. Had that been the death of Chewie, what an incredible way for the character to die. What an incredible story arc for the character. And to get killed by Rey by accident because she's struggling with the Force is a good way to sacrifice Chewie. And I don't think we'll see him anymore moving forward. I can't imagine that we would, so that would be a good place to end it. But you immediately know that he's not dead, and they reveal it, 8 seconds later, so it never has a chance to give you any impact. There's a little, like a Transformer Michael Bay explosion, but then a few seconds later, you know the truth. And everything in this movie feels like that. It all feels so pointless and empty. It feels like a Vine compilation. It feels... So, after sitting on the movie now for a week, and having really tried to process it, and tried to have other people help me process it, one of the biggest issues I have is that it just doesn't make a lot of sense. That's what's just really bothering me. A lot of the plot points, perfect example, the lightsaber, Luke's lightsaber, which gets ripped in two and explodes in the 8th film, is suddenly put back together. One of the biggest plot points, one of the things that allowed our imagination to run, what happened to Luke's saber, now that's destroyed, what's going to happen, what happened to the Kyber crystal, will she have her own lightsaber at the beginning of the film, what's going to happen? Oh no, just, I guess Princess Leia put it back together and repaired it somehow, even though it seemed completely obliterated, somehow can put it back together and it looks perfectly fine and hands it back to Rey, and we just completely ignore that part. There were parts of 8 that I think could have been used, could have been addressed, not been retconned, and been useful for the film. The major one there I do like, and that they did run with, was the dyad of the Force concept. That obviously Rey and Kylo are connected as any Sith and major Jedi would be, like Luke and Darth Vader, or Anakin and Obi-Wan. They have a history now, but this history is very unique, hopefully because, again, the Force is making it that way, because it's important this time, because they're one of the 2 only existing people on either side. I liked that concept, and I liked Kylo's story arc of wavering the entire time, even his lightsaber wavered. You know, the fact that this character was wavering the entire time, very similarly to Darth Vader, and then eventually makes the right decisions towards the end of the movie, even sacrificing himself. I don't understand why he even had to sacrifice himself. I think that's stupid. I know that he did some really heinous, horrible stuff, but I don't think the character had to die. I think we still could have gotten Rey and Kylo working together to create a new Jedi Academy, to create Grey Jedi, to create a new thing, to create a new movie, to create a new series, to create a Disney Plus series, something brand new, something cool that we could actually have something new. Because that's, I think, one of the biggest issues with Disney and Abrams with all of these films, is they just keep trying to rehash the same stuff. The same characters, but try to give them a story arc end. I get that. But the same characters, the same concepts, the same ships, the same whatever, with very little advancement and the same plot points and the same story beats even. Give me something new. I like Galaxy's Edge. I've been to Galaxy's Edge several times. I plan to go back next month to ride Rise of the Resistance, and I look forward to doing any Star Wars related stuff. I love The Mandalorian because it's brand new. This movie takes none of the brand new concepts that were presented in 7 8 and does literally nothing with them. And in fact, goes as far as to retcon some of them. Now, there was the awkward kiss at the end of 9. I know a lot of people, that's been a plot point for a lot of people to get angry about. It didn't really bother me. I mean, Star Wars is full of awkward kisses. I liked the idea that there was some sort of emotional turmoil going on between Rey and Kylo. I've seen plenty of people say there was an abusive relationship, and quite clearly it would be because Kylo's a Sith. I'm not saying they should have got together romantically. I'm saying they could have had a mutual respect and worked together to try to bring true balance to the Force by creating truly balanced Jedi. That's what I'm saying. If they fall in love and Kylo works past his shit and she learns to forgive him and all that stuff, that's great too. I mean, that's great too. That's a good story. It's an interesting story. It's not a PC story. I get the PC people would not like that. The PC babies would freak out about that. I get that, but it is an interesting story. You probably shouldn't role model your life about it though. Don't let that be your role model for life. Don't copy what you see in a Star Wars film. Don't try to attack people with laser swords or get into an abusive relationship. I don't understand what PC babies are complaining about there. I probably should not even say this stuff. I should probably clip this part out, but I'm not going to. Because I told you I'm putting as much effort into this movie as Rian Johnson did into number 8. There were some moments in number 9 that I really do enjoy. Luke at the site there, capturing the lightsaber and giving a nice big FU to Rian Johnson by saying that's an important, a lightsaber's important. Don't do this to a lightsaber. Little things like that. That's some interesting stuff, some cool stuff. The finale of the film really is where it lost me finally. It's where I just really completely lost my mind because, again, the Emperor's plan doesn't seem clear, and it seems like he's always been winging it now. It seems like he's always just been saying stuff. It seems like he's a very manipulative person who uses the Force and uses prophecy to lie to people and to manipulate them. Because the Force said that Kylo Ren would strike down Rey, but then he doesn't strike down Rey. But that's what the prophecy said. He's not going to strike down Rey, but Rey will strike me down, and then I will go into her body. That's what the prophecy says now. And then Kylo shows up and he's like, well, now the prophecy actually said I can drain both of you at the same time. So that's what the prophecy says now. But now I'm going to kill you, Kylo. But then Kylo doesn't die. And then Rey gets both lightsabers. And at that point, I just checked out. At that point, I had just checked out because I didn't really even understand what was going on. I didn't understand how the Emperor had the ability to shoot enough lightning to destroy an entire Starfleet or to temporarily stun an entire Starfleet. I didn't understand why the ships couldn't leave the planet. I know there was some sort of magnetic field, and at least one ship had left, so they had plenty of time for ships to start leaving, but they all stayed there just long enough for the... And then there was the beacon thing. Rey, as she flew in, she just... basically gave her location, so it was just data. All you needed was data. You didn't need to follow a beacon. You just needed to follow the data, the path. And once you had that path, so just transmit the path to every Star Destroyer, and they can just start taking the path or whatever. Or can you not light speed through a magnetic field? Is that so? I don't know. I don't know. Just none of it really made sense. And the more I think about it, the more that upsets me. So I think that's my biggest complaint of the movie is that I'm either too stupid to make sense of it, or J.J. Abrams was too stupid to make sense of it, or whoever wrote this for him. Ultimately, I blame Kathleen Kennedy. And I think a lot of people are going to say that's sexist or whatever. Give women producer rights. Put women in charge of whatever. But when a woman does a bad job, I'm going to say that she did a bad job. And I think the biggest mistake here is they did not have, and I know Lucas didn't either. I know it's very important that we point out that Lucas was winging it as he went, but he was better at it than Rian Johnson and then J.J. Abrams, and Kathleen Kennedy should have known that. So I feel like for 7, 8, and 9, they should have had a definite roadmap of what they were going to go. Maybe you don't even have to tell J.J. Abrams. Maybe you don't even have to tell Rian Johnson what the ending is supposed to be. You just tell them, this is what you need to get accomplished in this movie. Let's see how you can get it done. The ultimate problem with Star Wars is we haven't put insanely nerdy people in charge. And I don't mean angry neckbeards that you see on YouTube every day, myself included. I'm talking about somebody like, I don't know, Patton Oswalt. someone who understands this stuff and groks this stuff. Jon Favreau, he's a good example, and he's in the industry. Pick these people and call them up. Call Patton Oswalt and run the script by Patton Oswalt. Pay him $1 million so he keeps his mouth shut. Have him sign an NDA, and have him tell you why this stuff doesn't work. Perfect example of a line that stuck with me from the 9th movie is they land the little transport on the Star Destroyer, and the horses come running out. And then the guy on the Star Destroyer says, "Block their speeders." And the guy says, "We can't, sir." "Why? They're not using speeders." I do not recall a single time that the Empire has ever blocked or jammed someone's speeders. Am I mistaken? Tell me in the comment section. Am I below? But that was a line that just doesn't make sense and is unnecessary. It's completely unnecessary anyway. So even if it is something that's been done before, it might be something that could throw you out of the moment. Cut that scene out and add a few more seconds to Chewie's death. Add a few more seconds to Kylo's death. Add a few more seconds to any other plot point so they have a chance to set, have a chance to be good, have a chance to be important. Instead, you get so much thrown at you. 2, 3 movies worth of stuff thrown at you. And it's just frustrating and it's upsetting. And I'll go back to what Mark Hamill has frequently said. A story that Mark Hamill has told many, many times that I always try to remember when this stuff makes me upset, and I turn into an angry Francis E. Neckbeard. Mark Hamill said that he was on set with Harrison Ford, and they were filming the first film, and in a moment, he looked at Harrison Ford and said, "Hey, this is the scene after the trash compactor scene. Shouldn't our hair be wet by now?" And Harrison Ford patted him on the back and said, "It ain't that kind of movie, kid." And that's what I try to remember. It ain't that kind of movie, kid. I think Harrison Ford perfectly exemplifies that. Come here. Come here. Thank you for not barking. Thank you for not barking. Thank you. I think Harrison Ford perfectly exemplifies that in this film because he didn't even bother to shave before he showed up. He didn't look like anybody else does when they die. And I know that he's just a memory here, and I guess Kylo's remembering him as gruffy and weird, even though I don't think Kylo saw. Harrison Ford did not look happy to be there, did not look like he was putting in effort. It was a bad cameo. It was a good plot point, one of my favorite plot points for the film. I get that Leia was probably giving him that memory to try to help him turn and try to help him make the decision. That's what I think happened. Again, J.J. Abrams does not explain these things, so who knows? I can't possibly know. But what I think happened, he's looking at my headphones. What I think happened is Princess Leia sacrificed herself like Luke did, learning that trick from Luke and the studies that they did when they trained together, and was able to send that memory to him. But Harrison Ford in this movie showed up knowing it ain't that kind of movie, kid. So when you go see this movie, or you see it again, or you see any Star Wars thing, keep in mind, it ain't that kind of movie. It's not worth getting upset about. It's not worth bullying other people about. It's not worth fighting over. It's worth discussing. It's worth pointing out the good plot points and the bad plot points. It's worth tearing this movie down, just not other people. Does that make sense? Even the people who make it. I think Abrams probably did his best. Maybe he's just not that good at Star Wars. He's pretty good at other stuff, though. I think Rian Johnson did his best. I'm still really mad at Rian Johnson. But I try not to tear him down because of it. Even though I think if I don't have anything nice to say, I'm not going to say anything at all. So that's my opinion about the new Star Wars film. I'd like to know what you guys think. Now that you've had a chance to sit on it, if you had a chance to see it 2 or 3 times, do you still feel the same way about it? Do you hate it still? Did you refuse to watch it? Did you go to see it? And if you did you love it? Because nothing I said in this video should be able to take away your love of this crazy, fun popcorn film. If you like the Transformers, if you like whatever you like, don't let some angry neckbeard on YouTube take that away from you. Especially my dumb fat ass. But I hope you enjoyed the videos, guys. I'm going to go take this puppy, put him in a bag. He's tired. Look at him. Guys, as always, thanks for watching. I love you very much. I'll speak with you again soon. Rian Johnson, I forgive you.